Some of the most important rights in American history, the right to marry who you want, the right to educate your kids how you want, the right to use contraception, are not written anywhere in the Constitution. So, where do they come from? The answer is something called substantive due process. It's one of the most confusing, powerful, and controversial ideas in American law. And depending on who you ask, it either protects our most fundamental freedoms or it's a dangerous legal fiction the Supreme Court just made up. This idea comes from the 14th Amendment, which says, "No state shall deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law." You might be reading that and wondering how such a small handful of seemingly straightforward words can be so confusing. The issue is that the framers of this amendment had the audacity that only a 19th century white man is capable of having and didn't bother defining what they meant by liberty. Everyone has a different idea of what liberty means. Does liberty mean the right to own guns, or does it mean the right to walk around in public knowing that no one has guns? What liberty means to you is different from what liberty means to me, so what exactly is protected? Well, the one thing the Supreme Court has decided is that liberty refers to more than just not being in jail and instead covers other freedoms known as fundamental rights. Cases like Loving v. Virginia, which legalized interracial marriage, Griswold v. Connecticut, which guaranteed access to contraceptives, and Obergefell v. Hodges, which legalized same sex marriage, are all based on this idea of liberty. What makes this so dangerous, though, the problem with basing so many rights on one word, is that there's not a consensus on how we should decide what rights are protected by liberty. Some legal scholars say that we need to look at what the word liberty meant to the people who wrote the 14th Amendment. To do otherwise, they argue, would allow the 9 unelected judges on the Supreme Court to dictate social policy, leading to judicial tyranny. Others say that the framers used the vague term liberty on purpose because they wanted to allow future generations to discover new meanings of liberty as we grow as a society. To do otherwise would allow our modern society to be ruled by a bunch of white men from 150 years ago. This seemingly pedantic and petty academic argument has huge impacts on our country, and to further complicate things, neither side is obviously wrong. I dive deeper into this issue on my YouTube channel, but as someone who was affected by this debate, ask yourself, what do you think is the right way to define liberty?